everyone.
Hello, you guys missed the river dance.
I know, I felt like I wanted to do a jig or something. Exactly. Hey, we're so happy to be here on this last day of the week for Three Things Live, and we're so glad that you're joining us. Welcome to Three Things Live, where theme number 1 is something to smile about, theme number 2 is something to learn, and theme number 3 is something to discover. Let's go. Hello everyone, welcome to Three Things Live. I'm Kris here at my girlfriend's quilt shop, and I'm so thrilled that you're joining us today. We've had a really great week here on Three Things Live. We have had some interesting, interviews and stories to tell, and I just love that each month, the first week of the month, we get to talk about Stitch Your Story. It's a movement, what Allison likes to call it.
I love that.
And it's something that I'm truly passionate about, and that is really sharing your story.
Right. Right. It was really fun. So this morning, Eric and I kind of had a little discussion around miracles. And I'm like, Eric, tell me a little bit about miracles in your life. And he's like, oh, I don't really have any. But then the more we talked, the more they just came to fruition. And one of the really fun things about miracles that I wanted to share, and that Eric and I talked a lot about them, is that when you start recognizing them, they're everywhere.
Then you see them more, don't you?
The hope that comes from miracles.
Yeah.
And I just feel so hopeful about so many things today.
Isn't it kind of like, thinking about the word gratitude, that the more grateful you are, then the more you see, and the more that you're looking for it, and the more that it just, comes up in your life, and you're just full of gratitude. So it's kind of one of those things that what you are looking for is what you're going to find.
Right.
And I think that's with everything in life.
Right.
And so
is glass half full, glass half empty. And I just, I tend to be a glass right in the middle. I'm like am I an optimistic realist or a pessimistic realist? But just right in the middle. But I really cannot imagine life without laughter and life without something so fun. I mean, I just love to laugh and love to smile. So there was a really fun quote that was on Facebook that I saw, and I hope I get this right. And if anybody has heard of it, help me.
Okay.
But it was. No, I just lost it. But no, is your life bad, or is it a moment in your life that's bad?
You know what?
I mean, when
so
you're
true.
looking at things. I mean,
so
when you're looking at these, because nothing brings the goodness and the greatness of things than talking about a miracle.
There are going to be days that are good and bad.
Right.
So it's really good to celebrate the days when they're great, and it's okay to acknowledge the days when they're not so good either.
Right.
So,
and it's okay. So my cute little granddaughter, I hope she's not watching, she'll probably kill me. She was having a really bad day, and she works in the kit team out there.
Yes.
And I walked in, I'm like, how are you, Kimber? How is everything? And she seemed okay, just a little bit quiet. So when I left, I turned around and I'm like, because there she was. Tears streaming down her face, and she was just having a bad day. Because I said, what is wrong? She's like, I don't know. And have you ever had days like that? I'm like, you know what, get in the back seat of the car with me. We're gonna sit in the parking lot, you can just cry it out.
Yes,
I mean,
exactly.
and then she was, she was just fine. Sometimes you just have to cry it out.
Cry it out, cry it out.
That's my mantra, at least. Cry everything out.
That does happen on a daily basis.
Right. Well, did you just say that out loud? I know. When you asked me on Monday, hey, what's a personal best? I don't think I've cried for a few days.
That's something we do in our meetings weekly, is we go around and share a personal best for that week. And so it's always kind of fun to hear what everybody's doing and celebrating those wins, big and small. Well, this week we are talking about, as we alluded to, all about miracles in our lives, and that is what our theme is for this month, the month of March, for Stitch Your Story. Now, once again, I want to remind all of you, it is not too late to jump in. Jump in wherever you're at, whether you've done January, whether you've done the February block. If you haven't done either, it's okay. Start with March.
Right.
You know, and do what you can. But the most important thing to do is to just go for it. And we're seeing so many blogs coming through and so many great stories that are so touching. And someone wrote me yesterday and said how much they enjoyed reading other people's stories because it made them not feel so alone.
Okay.
That they were there were little things that they could, you know, grab onto that says, oh, we're a lot alike, you know, in that way and in this way. So, you know, I think it's something that's really important, and we hope that you'll join us in the Stitch Your Story movement, and we hope you'll also share with your friends. Share with your quilt guilds, share with your sewing friends. Heck, we know people out there who are doing this and they've never sewed a stitch in their life. Can you believe it? It's true, because we've said, you know what, there's no rules. Even if you want to draw the pictures, if you want to paint a fabric.
Write a poem every month, something.
Whatever, something to share your story. Absolutely. So as we get started today for theme 1, I thought it would be fitting for you to share your story about your miracle block.
Okay, so as you all know, and as we've talked about,
yes,
sometimes the blocks really resonate and you're like, I know right what I'm gonna do and I know the story I'm gonna share.
Yes.
Sometimes you're like, what in the world?
Yes.
So I really struggled this month, Kris. I mean, I really struggled because not that I don't feel like a lot of things are miracles, but I mean, you know, I recognize a lot of miracles in life. But what could I share that was truly a miracle? And so I thought a little bit, you know, my parents always share that my birth was kind of a miracle. I was born so early that when I was born, the doctor said, hurry and give her a name because she will not last through the night.
Wow.
My grandparents were in the process of getting divorced and they had enough time in the car together to decide that maybe their problems weren't so big. And so, you know, that's kind of a miracle. But the thing that touched me and the thing I want to share today is that my miracle is truly a miracle, but it was my dad that called and said, I understand you're doing this project. Now, for my dad to get involved in something crafty, I mean, he's a banker.
Because he saw the Stitch Your Story idea. And he listened to it and he thought about it and he thought, okay, I'm going to call Allison and I have an idea for her. I love this.
Yes. I mean, is this not crazy?
Yes.
So first of all, he called and he said, I have a miracle. And I had thought of it, but I didn't really know how to put it together. So that was touching in and of itself because he shared that.
Sure.
So that was the first one. And the second one is that he got involved and that I had shared, and now it's become a family project, so to speak. So the miracle in my life is my mom.
Yes.
And I talk a lot about her, but it's been about 6 years ago, was diagnosed with an extremely rare form of cancer, and so rare that they would take her tests and send them to the Mayo Clinic because there was only like 6 people that had this strain of cancer, and so they were studying everything. And they told us that we would have her about 6 months.
Wow.
And that's a pretty tough pill to swallow, but so many of you swallow it, live with it, do all of those things. I mean, you know, it's really, cancer really is kind of a thief. And so she got everything together. I mean, we really struggled with her, with it. You know, where do we go? How do we live? How do we do all of the things? And she decided to go a round of chemotherapy, and she decided to do some radiation because she didn't want to live with regret. What if?
Sure.
So the miracle of this is that I still have my mom.
Yeah, that's
6 years later.
Wow.
The sheer miracle is that she never lost her cancer. They can't call it remissions because her tumors just quit growing.
Wow.
And she still has them to this day. She still goes in every 2 or 3 months for an MRI.
Wow.
They have never grown another ounce or, you know, whatever they call it. I mean, you know, And the doctor says, if they do grow, then, this is it.
Yeah.
But what a miracle to have my mom for 6 years.
Yes.
And to continue to have her and have her be in pretty good health.
Pretty good health,
And
she is. I mean, you talk to her every day.
Every day.
Every
I
day
talk
on
to
your
her.
way home from work.
I remember at the time when I thought I was going to lose her. And I said, Mom, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And she's like, you can still talk to me every day. I just will have to answer in your heart.
Oh.
And that really touched me because I just think, all those times that you call your mom and you're like, okay, how do I do this recipe? Or my husband is driving me insane. I mean, talk me off this ledge or, all the things. You're always a child. You always have a mom. But the miracle is that I still have her. And like I said, every time she goes to a doctor's appointment, we're like,
yeah. I love that your dad shared that with you too, just to bring it, bring it to the forefront again of saying, your mom, what she's gone through is a miracle.
And we forget. So we talked about this on Monday with disasters a little bit.
Yes.
About how quickly we forget.
Yes, it's
and
very
so
true.
At the time, when we were all preparing and getting ready and everything, we really did. It's really easy to forget. And my mom is in such good spirits and such good health, and she hides it so well that she really is sick that we forget. And sometimes she gets mad, and says, oh my gosh, people forget I am sick. And I'm like, oh, we kind of do.
Yes,
we take it for granted.
Yeah.
So,
but it's things like that absolutely put life in perspective.
Yeah.
And so I love the block that you created with this.
So here is my block this month. So my block says hope. And it has, the breast cancer awareness because she does have a tumor in her breast. She has one in her lungs. She has one in her head. I mean, she just has these crazy. But I just love this block because I love that miracles bring hope.
Oh, I love that. That's a beautiful block, Allison.
Well, thank you.
I really, really love that. I enjoy reading your comments as well. In fact, let's scroll down a little bit here. That Linda right here, she said her miracle is her cat that showed up a week after her house fire burned, but alive. He's alive today and doing great.
Wow,
that is a miracle.
That is a miracle.
Absolutely.
I mean, because those little fur babies are part of our family.
Yes. Yes.
So I really would love to hear, even if you're not participating in Stitch Your Story, flood friends this week because I would love to hear the miracles, big or small.
I love that, yes.
That affect your life because I think that we are, I call it the winter blahs. I think that we are in the tail end of the winter doldrums, the winter blahs, where it's not quite spring, it's still a little winter. And so whether you're going to do a Stitch Your Story or not, and I hope this is okay because the last time we did this was with prom and graduation pictures. But please, 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 I would personally love some hope.
Absolutely.
And I would love to hear your little miracles. So flood Facebook. Let's flood friends of Facebook and let's celebrate everybody's
positivity out there. Wonderful idea, Allison. Well, I'm excited because we're going to head over to the sewing machine right now, and Allison is going to take us step by step of how she created this block so that you can create a block yourself that perhaps spells a special word out for you. All right, so we're going to do that during theme 2, and then be sure to stick around for theme 3 because I'm going to show you how to resize your blocks. Whether you want them bigger or smaller, there's a great math formula for you. Yes, we're doing a little bit of math, but we got this. We got this. Plus, I've got a free download for you, so you're not going to be, you're going to be just fine, right? All right, everyone. So let's go over to the sewing table, and we will be back right after this. 3 Themes Live is not just another sewing tutorial video. This is a lifestyle show, the center of a community of creators just like you that love to sew, quilt, decorate your homes, and it has a focus on all that is good in the world.
We have visits from special guests, a quarterly book club. We keep you up to date with everything going on in the world of sewing. We help you finish your unfinished projects, and we share your stories.
He's learned that he can do really, really hard things.
You can join us live and comment and ask questions, or just sit back, relax, learn, laugh, and discover something new in every show.
Come and join us every Monday through Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern and 1 p.m. Mountain Time. or watch when you want on YouTube or Facebook. There is room for everyone. See for yourself by clicking the links below to learn more.
Three Things Live is where we always have something to make you smile
Something to learn.
and something to discover. Let's go. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Three Things Live. I'm Kris.
And I'm Allison.
And we're here to talk today about how did Allison put together this hope block? What are the ways that we can create our own blocks and design them with perhaps a special word or name of someone?
Right. And it's so easy. So I just want to walk through, because you can do any type of block with this method for the most part.
That's true. It doesn't have to necessarily even be a word, does
right.
it?
No, it could be anything. So,
Okay.
so the first, there's a couple of little notions out there. But first of all, I need to look straight in the camera and I need to apologize to my father, my mother, and my algebra teacher. I swore I would never do math the day I graduated from college. I do math every day.
Every single day.
Dang it. All right. There was
the fun math,
yes,
though.
yeah, this is the fun math. And it's applicable.
Absolutely.
I still don't use letters in my
right.
math. Okay, so the first thing is that if you have this Caterpillar Glow or any Caterpillar light box, sometimes that really helps. And so I just wanted to show how fun this is, because you could trace any type of picture or anything on there. So we're not going to necessarily do that today, but I just wanted to have that. But the second thing that I want to show is this Quilt Genius graph paper.
I love this.
So we have this also available, but graph paper is kind of a must.
Yes, and this is no ordinary graph paper.
No, this is so fun because you have squares, or you have diagonals if you wanted to do something on the diagonal, or look at these little triangles. But this is really a great investment if you are just looking. And this is what I use to create my block.
Okay, and it's called Quilt Genius.
Quilt Genius, yes. So
You're gonna
so
feel
it's really
like a
easy.
genius.
So what I decided to do today, Kris, is I decided that we were just going to take a simple letter.
Okay.
So guess which letter I chose?
A for Allison.
No, K for Kris.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
I want a race. Just teasing. Okay, so I just took a simple letter, and what I did is I just drew a square. Now, here is, and I'm going to draw this in a little bit darker so that you can see this.
Okay.
But what I did is I just created a K, and I did it simply by deciding how big I wanted my quilt block to be, and then how many squares I wanted to represent. So with my hope block, I'm like, okay, I want every block on that to be 1.5 inches.
Okay, so when you're looking at the squares, what does each square represent?
Whatever you want it to.
Okay, so I mean, they give us a suggestion of a 1/4 inch square, but if you wanted each square to be 1 inch,
you absolutely could do that. I mean, you know, or if you wanted each square to be 6 inches, you absolutely could do that. And that's the beauty of it. So what I did is I decided I'm going to draw out your K first.
Okay.
And I also have a free tutorial on here. So
perfect.
I'm going to draw out the K, and then I'm going to kind of decide what makes sense as far as quilting. Now, one of the hints I can give you, don't do curves. Make everything straight, because you do have to do you do have to do half square triangles or blocks. And then the other thing is maybe look at your blocks and say, okay, what makes sense when I do this? So I'm going to show you, and we're going to use a Sharpie on this, because when I looked at this and I'm like, okay, if I do a 12.5 by 12.5 block, then the center, I'm going to do 10 inches, so to speak, and then I'm going to add an inch border on everything. So when I looked at this, I'm like, all right, how is this going to be the easiest way to do your K? And I decided to do 1.5 inch blocks. So what I did is I just kind of...
So are you cutting at 1.5 inches so it finishes at
1 inch.
Okay.
Yep. So add a 1/2 inch, and it walks you all through this in the tutorial.
Yes.
So here I come across, and I'm like, okay, there's my 1 inch blocks. So I'm just going to draw my 1 inch blocks along here.
And you've got those guidelines.
And
right
I have
there.
the guidelines. And look how easy this works out.
Yeah.
Okay, all of a sudden, I've got 1/2 square triangle right here. I have, this line will come up here. I've got 1, 2, 3 colors, 2 backgrounds, 1/2 square triangle, and another 1/2 square triangle with some colors. So do you see how easy? So if I continue to go up here, then I have exactly the same method. So I come here and I'm like, okay, this would be a background.
Just a regular square.
Just a regular square.
But now we have a half square triangle.
Now we have a half square triangle. And then if you use like some colored pencils or whatever, then you could just color those in so you know exactly what you have to do.
Oh, that's an excellent idea.
Isn't that so easy? So I managed to do my hope.
Can I show something real quick? We don't have the colors here, but again, you can see right here. Let's see. That one would be, oh yes, this one.
This one right there.
Okay, so you can see that this is background.
This.
We've got this, there we go, and
this one right here.
This, oh yes.
Yes, because you're gonna make your K at a diagonal.
Okay, yeah, that's fun. And you can see here.
How easy that is.
Actually, that is
so
really simple.
Can you see how if you drew a house or if you drew a star or anything, how easy that comes together?
Yeah.
And then I could do this one of 2 ways. So I'm going to show you 2 different examples before we work on your K block.
Okay.
So the first example that I did is I took and just did letters of the alphabet.
Okay.
And so when you have a block like this, look, you really can just cut one big block.
Right, you wouldn't have to do them as small
one and a
squares.
half.
You could say, oh, that's going to be one big square.
Right, and so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 inches. Add your quarter inch to each side. And so I would cut those at 4.5 inches. Yep, which is how I did these blocks right here. I just had big blocks, you know, instead of taking those into the graph paper.
I love that.
So I did the A, B, and C. Now for my block, it was a little bit more detailed. And so I did 1-inch squares and made these, you know.
Now this was a block that you found online.
I actually found, I found the diagram. I liked the words, and then I just put it onto the graph paper.
Nice. Okay, so isn't that great that you can, you know, find that block that inspires you? And we told you all along with Stitch Your Story, if you remember the first block she did, she took from Lori Holt.
Right.
Because it reminded her the story of the blue truck with her grandpa with Moo Cow.
Yes.
You know, and had the cow in the back. So again, one of the things about Stitch Your Story is we don't want you to feel like, I'm not a designer, I can't do it. You can do it, and I love how you put that together based off of, you saw this, you know, kind of a template for it, if you will.
Just a picture for a template.
But you made it into 1-inch squares.
1-inch squares. Now Diane asked, could you do a snowball corner? Absolutely, you could do a snowball corner. I mean, it's just as easy. So basically what you're doing, for those of you that are lost, because I feel like, so basically you're drawing your picture out, and then take your picture and outline it, and then decide how big of squares do you want to do.
On that snowball corner, Diane, if we think about it, this whole thing would be your print, right?
Right.
But you would actually cut it out to be that far.
Right.
And then your snowball ends up going right here. You know exactly how big to cut it.
Because you've got
That's the beauty of graph paper.
2,
And then you just flip it over.
Yes.
Does that make sense, Diane? I hope it does, because I think that's an excellent idea. You could do this in 1-inch squares, or you could do a 4-patch, or you could do one square.
Let's look at the C, because maybe it'll be a little bit easier on a quilt. So if I had graphed this out and say I did these as, this is my first, this is my second, at 2 inches, then what I would do is I would do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6-inch. Add my 1/2 inch to the end of it, and then just flip my corners.
I love this. Yeah, so rather than doing the 1/2 square triangle here, this would be one big block.
Right.
You did a flip and fold here and a flip and fold there.
Easy enough.
I love that.
Yep, Diane says that's awesome, so she gets that. So what I did, Kris, on your K is I decided to do the 1 inches because I wanted it really scrappy.
Okay.
So what I did is I took and I figured those all out. And I like the really scrappy look because you can just cut all of those out.
Yeah.
So I took your K here and I just figured all of these and I just started at my top. I did one row at a time so that I wasn't confused, and then I crossed it off. So let's look at this here. So here's my first one.
This could be kind of fun.
And here's your first block.
Yes.
With there. Here's my second one, 1 inch square. Here's my second block. Your third one, third block, and your fourth one, fourth block.
Wow.
And then I have background. So
Dee shares in the comments, she says, I love that you can use colors on the graph paper to help visualize how your blocks will look.
yes.
Yeah, and you could play around with all sorts of, different combinations. So in fact, one of the things you could do is you could draw it out, then make copies of it, and then try different variations of color.
One of the things that I love is that they say coloring is really good for your brain and
I
very
believe it.
relaxing.
Yes.
And so think of your graph paper as your coloring book and imagine what that would look.
Yeah.
So yeah, this was so easy. So I just stripped this right together, Kris. And if I added your next bottom
Look
to
at
your K,
that.
then all of a sudden,
And it's all done.
we have one more. I would bring this out and bring this.
Oh, you've got one more row after
Right,
this?
right.
Okay.
So this is your second to last row. So do you see I have your solid right here. Then I have your half square triangle right here.
Let me match this up.
Right there.
Look
Then
at that.
1, 2.
Would you believe that, when you think about it, Allison, you've got your blocks right underneath each one.
Right.
Because again, it's matching the graph paper.
Right. Oh. Yeah, isn't that so fun?
Yes, I
so
really
that is
like
how
that.
I put my block together.
Okay.
Very, very, like I said, do one row at a time, color it, cross it off, cut it out. I mean, the thing with graph paper is you can just do whatever you want.
Right.
But the possibilities are endless because you can make that.
Oh, okay.
All right, do we have any questions?
Creativity at its finest. All right.
All right, Ray said they did recommend coloring for self-therapy during her chemo treatment. So,
yes.
yeah.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah.
And now we have a download if you need extra help,
Right, right. We've put together a download. It is free.
Yes.
Free in the club, free on the website.
Yes.
We actually have 2 free downloads today.
We do.
One about this technique right here so that you can just download and follow along. But like I said, grab that graph paper and just, if this is too small for you, then make it bigger. I mean, enlarge it, make your blocks bigger.
I mean, yeah, because like you said, you could make the squares, maybe every 4 squares actually ends up being 2 inches.
Right.
Or, whatever it might be. So you really
do
can play around with that.
a practice run with it because like I said, this one right here is 1, 2, 3 blocks. 1, 2, 3 blocks.
You've
1,
got the
2,
grid.
3 blocks.
You have a 3 by 3 grid here. Yeah.
That's where I did the A, is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And so that is just your grid. So work on some really big items just so that you get the hang of it before you go to the smaller one.
It seems very doable. And especially if you're going to do it with your 12.5-inch block, it's just one block.
Right.
You're not creating an entire quilt.
Right.
But you could.
You sure could.
You sure could. There was a comment earlier. Let me see if I can find it right there. Okay. Dee said, that you can combine the graph designs with the 10 Sisters grids and make it easy peasy.
I thought of doing that, and I'm like, oh, would I confuse them? So Dee, you are on my same wavelength.
Yes,
I mean, absolutely.
I like that. Yeah.
The other thing that you really could do, and especially with paper, is get your squares out, make them the same size as your paper, and put a little dab of glue stick and just glue your blocks on.
You could.
You could, and then pull your paper off the back. Just decrease your stitch length to just so it's really teeny, so it perforates that paper.
Another idea is you could even cut out the squares and then manipulate it and play with it.
Right.
If you're more tactile, everyone learns a little bit different. So if you're more tactile and you like to move things around and you can't quite do that on the graph paper, cut out the graph paper and play around with your different pieces.
Right. Diane wants to know if we're going to sell graph paper tonight.
Yes.
Yes, we are.
Yes.
This exact, we have that on our comment sold show tonight.
Yes.
So this was really a fun technique, when we're kind of thinking, and one of the things that we're thinking is not only share our blocks, but what is a fun technique that we can do. And this is really common way that we start thinking of how to design our own quilts.
Yeah. Okay, wonderful. Are you all excited? I mean, think about the possibilities, like Allison said. I mean, my mind is already reeling and just thinking about so many fun ideas you can do with this technique. So we hope you learned something new today. And for theme 3, as I mentioned before, I'm going to talk about resizing blocks. Let's say you have, you have a 6-inch block that you think is absolutely adorable. But what if you wanted to make that 6-inch block into a baby quilt? One block, make it 36 inches.
Wow.
I'm going to show you how to do it right after this. For someone out there who might not know what a jelly roll is,
40 individual pieces of fabric cut 2.5 inches wide from selvage to selvage. So I sew 2 together, and then we're just going to put them right sides together.
Okay.
And sew down one side and the other. I'm going to create kind of a tube. So you need that 45-degree line right on my stitch seam.
Stitch seam.
I'll just make my cut. And then I can just use the right angles. So I will just, when I'm going to make my next cut, just flip over. It's super easy. And then watch how this just pops open.
Yes, I love that.
And you get 2 different looks from that tube.
Yes, I love that. Last week on 3 Themes Live, we took inspiration from our favorite movies and maybe embarrassed ourselves a little with our acting debut.
Your smile, your hair,
Your clothing.
Hey, we're gonna win awards for that performance.
I don't think so, Allison. The only awards we'll be winning are for the awesome projects that we made last week.
An adorable celebration table runner inspired by the movie The Emperor's New Groove, and the exclusive Hearts in Bloom quilt inspired by the movie Wicked.
Be sure to join us live every Monday through Wednesday at 1 p.m. Mountain, 3 p.m. Eastern. It's time to find out why you belong here. So hurry and catch up on all this cinematic goodness by watching on Facebook or YouTube or by clicking the links below.
3 Things Live is where we always have something to make you smile
Something to learn.
and something to discover.
Let's go. All right, we're back and we've switched seats.
I know. Gotta always keep you on your toes.
That's right. So for theme number 3, we always like to talk about different discoveries. And one of the discoveries that I wanted to share today is how do we resize our quilt blocks? Whether we found a quilt block that is really large and we want to make it small, maybe we want a little mini quilt. You know, maybe we don't have room for that big quilt, but we love the design, right? And we can make it mini.
Yes.
Or you have a small block and you want to make it giant.
I did it with my first block. I had to make a Lori Holt 12 by 12 little cow to fit in the back of the truck.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I've got a formula for you, and don't you worry, we've also got a download technique sheet for everyone today that tells you exactly how you can do this. So let's start off with something very, very simple, and we're gonna take a look right here at what I'm referring to. Let's pretend I've got this 9-patch block, okay? Very easy. We're going super simple so that you can get the concept here. Now, this block, if I were to sew it together, would end up being 6 inches.
Okay.
Okay, because each square by itself is 2 inches finished.
Right.
Now, if it's 2 inches finished, what am I cutting each block to be?
You have to be 2.5 inches each block because you have to allow for a 1/4 inch on all sides.
Yes. Ding, 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 ding,
okay.
ding.
All right. Yay,
okay,
I
you're
passed.
right. All right. So if everyone can just wrap their minds around that for a moment, that whatever your finished size is, once it's sewn into the quilt, that you do need to add a 1/2 inch. But here's the thing. We don't want to just multiply. Let's say we're going to we want it 3 times the size.
Right.
Let's say I want to make my 6-inch block 18 inches. All right, that's a pretty big size block. Do you know how fast I could get done with a king size quilt?
Pretty quick.
Pretty darn quick.
I know.
PDQ.
3 times as fast.
Whoa, look at you. She's brilliant.
I'm a genius.
Yes, you are. So, because we're doing it 3 times, you can do a much larger size. So, but here's the thing. A lot of people will think that, well, if I have a 2.5-inch square, I need to multiply it by 3. However, you don't want to do that. That's going to throw everything off. What you need to do is you take it back to what the finished size is, and then you multiply it by 3.
Right.
All right.
Okay.
So if these were 2 inches finished,
Okay.
then, all right.
I feel like a quiz is
I know.
coming on.
I want all of you to be thinking about this at home, too. If each piece was 2 inches finished and I wanted it 3 times the size, what will I end up, what will my size be finished?
Finished. Okay. So it's 2 inches finished.
Yes.
You want it 3 times the size.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So 2 inches times 3
Yes.
is 6.
Yes. Okay. Good.
'Kay.
She's got that part. And I hope all of you do too. Now is the time to add back in the seam allowance.
Okay.
So how much are we going to add back in?
Actually, we're just going to add a 1/2 inch.
Yes.
Because we 1/4 inch for all sides, so 6
Exactly.
and a half.
6.5
I can see
inches.
where you might think 2 inches times that by 2.5, 2.5 times 3 gives you way more than you need.
Gives you more than you need. So that's why you've got to always go back to the finished size, not to the cut size. So when you look at a pattern, if you are looking at the cut list, take it back to, take the 1/2 inch off, then multiply it, then go from there and add it back in. So I'm just gonna show reference-wise here real quick what a 6.5 inch block is going to look like compared to what we did have. All right, so we got 20, there's 6.5. All right. Do you see the difference?
Wow.
That is definitely much larger, isn't
Right.
it?
Right.
Okay, so if you can imagine that you have 9 of those, just think of how fast and quick that quilt would be. So the same thing goes for if you are making it smaller, you would divide it
Right.
by that number. So let's take a look at my little worksheet for you all here. So right here it says that resizing quilt blocks doesn't have to be difficult. Simply take it step by step and in the order appearing on the table and have fun. When I talk about table, I'm referring to this, which I'll show here in just a moment. So first you choose your desired block and you decide if you're going to be making it larger or am I going to make it smaller. So if you're going to make it larger, we're going to multiply. If you're going to make it smaller, we're going to divide, right? Now, you've got to look at the cut list and subtract the seam allowance first before proceeding with the next step. So you minus a 1/2 inch, right? Mm-hmm. And then you're going to multiply by the number of times that you want it to be, increased. Add in the number or the 1/2 inch,
yep.
and then that number's your new cut size. That's how easy it is. So I've given you an example here, again, based off of the 9 patch, but I want to tell you that this same concept works even if you're doing rectangle blocks. So for example, if you had a 2.5 by 4.5, what would the finished size be?
Let me walk this through.
Okay.
So your 2.5 by 4.5, your finished size is 2 by 4.
Yes, are you all catching that at home?
So if I want to do 2 times larger, then I go 4 by 8
Yes.
and add the 1/2 inch back in.
So your cut size would now be 4.5 by 8.5. Nice job. Wow.
I did pay attention.
Yes, you did. Your mom and dad and grandma and grandpa would be so proud.
I know. I still can't balance my checkbook, but I did pay attention.
Yeah, there you go. Quilter's math is way too much fun. So it's very, very simple. The concept is very simple, and sometimes we overcomplicate things. We think, oh, I don't know how to do that. You do know how to do that. This is very, very easy to do. Now, one other thing to know is if, let's say, for example, you have a half square triangle. Don't fret, okay? All you have
Just
to
make
do.
it bigger so you can cut it down.
Exactly. That's exactly right. But what you do, kind of the math idea in my mind is, let's see if you can catch this.
All right.
If
so many quizzes.
If you want a 5-inch finished half square triangle, you're going to cut 2 triangles at what size?
You're going to cut, well, it depends on the method you're going to do.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
But really you're going to cut 2 at 5.5.
Yes. Or what I like to do is I like to give that extra little bit.
6.
So 6 inches.
So you can cut them back down.
Yep. So you can cut them back down, and then you have no worries.
Right.
Again, if that just went woo over your head, it's
just,
all right
just
here.
rewinding.
Exactly. There is no need to panic.
Yes.
Oh, brother.
Yes. Oh, brother.
Yep.
Can we do this?
Exactly.
Math every day this week.
Yes.
Every day
I
last
know.
week with
It's
Golden
a lot.
Ratio.
We
The
did.
school teacher and Kris is coming
Don't
back
you
out.
feel like you're just getting smarter and smarter by the
Yes.
second?
Yes.
That's what we want. So here's another helpful worksheet for all of you, and I want
this
you
is
to download this, print it out, put it in a binder, make lots of copies, because if you're trying to figure out all of this math, it's so nice to have something to write it all out.
Right.
So, for example, I would have the name of the quilt that I was trying to do with the original size and what I wanted the size to become. But then don't become overwhelmed by it. Just break it down by each block and go through the formula. So I have right here, we'll take a closer look right here, that it says segment. So you're going to write in what part of the block you are trying to figure out. I like to put in what the fabric color is, again, to help remind me, or maybe in the pattern, maybe a swatch you could cut up and put there. Maybe a pattern says, is labeled A, B, C, you could put that in there. What is the original cut size? Write it down, minus SA. What does that mean?
Seam allowance.
There you go, seam allowance.
I've hung out with her way too many times. Got the alliterations
there you
down,
go.
boss.
Nice job. So minus the 0.5, because that stands for a ½ inch. Resize it by either multiplying it or dividing it. You put your new number there. You add back in the seam allowance, and now you have what you need to cut, your cut list, and I write in how many do I need to cut?
Okay.
And this repeats itself over and over again. So that's why I say make lots of copies so you can use this on any kind of quilt or block that you're trying to resize.
Now, I love this worksheet for a different reason.
Why is that?
Maybe I'm never going to do math and never resizing anything.
Okay.
But sometimes I cut and forget what I've cut and I don't do it all together. Wouldn't this be fantastic to download, print this out, and instead of doing all the math, just put your fabric in the amount to cut, and then you have a nice little worksheet of what you have cut and what you haven't cut for any pattern that you are doing, especially if you're doing a Stacy Itsu, for example, that has 17 pages of cutting instructions that you're like,
That's right.
my shoulders can't take it.
And trying to keep track of it all, it's so nice to be able to just have it right there. So anyway, we hope you find that to be helpful. And if you use it, take a picture, post it in the Friends of My Girlfriend's Quilt Shop page. Tell us what you're doing. Are you making something larger? Or are you making something smaller? We'd love to follow you through that journey of you feeling like you can be a creative, person.
And if you use this and it works out and you truly think that is your miracle, post it.
There you go. I like that a lot. All right, friends. Well, that wraps things up for us today. We hope that you've been inspired. We hope that you've enjoyed learning new things. It's always fun to keep our minds sharp, right? And but before we leave, we want to remind you that book club is coming up.
Oh, guess who is reading? I finished the book, you know.
Yes.
Guess who's reading it at my house? And there's only one other person. If
Jeff?
I'm not, yes.
Jeff is reading it.
Jeff is reading it. I looked over last night and I'm like, what are you reading? So, hey, he's enjoying it. I asked him, what do you think? It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's really a great book. So it's not too late to join in on the conversation. It's What the Wind Knows. And we are going to be discussing it coming up. 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
Yep.
March 19th is the day. So join us for that. We'll be discussing the book, and then Allison, Kyle, and I it's the three of us together on that day. We're going to be sharing a pattern that was inspired by the book.
Right.
So you got to love that.
Yes.
Okay, so that wraps things up for us today. Thank you so much for being here.
Remember, comment sold is a new time tonight.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Do not forget, thank you for the reminder. 6 p.m. Mountain Time. We've changed the time of comments sold. So that's 5 p.m. Pacific, 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock p.m. tonight for those of our friends on the East Coast. We've moved it up by about 30 minutes.
Trying to get you ladies to bed a little earlier.
That's right. Us too.
Us too.
All right, friends. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Keep doing all the things you love, and we'll see you again real soon. Bye-bye.